Thank you so much for coming. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Ben Chang. I'm the director of the Games and Simulation Arts and Sciences program at RPI and the Digital Game Hub Center of Excellence in Digital Game Development. So thank you so much for coming out. This is the final pitch presentations from teams, studios who have been in the Level Upstate program this year. So Level Upstate is our games incubator entrepreneurship program. So the presentations you're going to see tonight from groups that have been working really hard over the past almost a year now on developing their games, developing their business plans at this kind of intersection between technology and creativity, between the tech startup world and the world of storytelling through interactivity and through art. And it's just wonderful to see you all here this evening to recognize all the hard work they've done. And I hope you'll have some interesting questions for them as well. So we have 4 teams that are going to be presenting. 3 of them are in person. The first one we're going to have is unfortunately going to be a recorded presentation because the presenter is stuck in Dallas. She was flying here last night, and American Airlines stranded her at Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. Any of you who are software entrepreneurs, if you have an idea for something that makes airline scheduling better, or is a replacement for CrowdStrike, get on that, please. We'll try to fund you. So unfortunately, she wasn't able to make it. We were able to get her safely back home again. And she was able to record a presentation to share for us. So that'll be the first one, and then the 3 other studios will be coming up and showing you their projects as well. So after each one of those, there will be some time for Q&A, and also time afterwards to check out the games and play them yourselves. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and start this first presentation. This is from Orbital Games.
Unfortunately, it didn't end up working out, but I'm so happy to be able to talk to you all and share this with you today and talk about Lost Roots and Orbital Games. So let's get into it. At Orbital Games, we are passionate about creating immersive and unconventional experiences through the medium of games. And so when we say that, we're talking about creating games that really make you think about the human experience, deep human emotions, and in the game we're about to talk about, Lost Roots, specifically life and death. We want players to really be inspired by both the narrative and the visuals, and overall we want to create something that is memorable and meaningful to people of all walks of life. So whether that be someone young or old or different cultures, we want this to be relatable in terms of the human experience. So a little bit about our team. I'm Graziella LaRocca. I've created Orbital Games a few years ago when I first started getting into game design. I have a background in medical illustration, so I kind of take a lot of my experience with death kind of from that background. And I also have always been fascinated by nature and biology. In this setting, I've been tasked with creating the 3D environments, something that I hold near and dear to my heart, and I've really enjoyed working with the team on this project. Jake is our programmer. He is a super, super talented guy. He's worked a lot with Unreal Engine and Blueprints, and he has worked on a ton of different projects and apps. Having him on the project has been huge for us because he just brought so much experience that was really valuable in problem solving for our game. Vin is our 2D artist. He worked on a lot of the 2D assets for like the splash screen and the some of the animation work as well. He's also super talented. He's worked on projects for RIT, Coca-Cola, and he's just an incredible artist and animator. Will is someone that I used to work with while I was a student at RIT. He has composed a lot of different music and created sound effects for video games. He is incredibly gifted at what he does, and I swear he can read my mind when it comes to music, and he's just able to kind of create the sounds that I'm envisioning in my head and make them for a game. And lastly, we have Owen. He has been an awesome writer. He has a lot of experience with creating characters and developing narrative for just kind of deep, immersive thought and emotions, and all of that came through when he worked on this project. I really feel like his narrative work brought the project to life. Okay, so as a studio, the goals that we're trying to capture in our work across all projects, again, like I said at the beginning of the slide deck, we're really trying to evoke emotion and a lot of self-reflection. So when we create our games, we want people to really start thinking about their own lives, their own choices, their own humanity, and in this case, their own death. We really like to work with themes that make people a little uncomfortable, and kind of delve into that and see how we can tie that around gameplay. We also like to design worlds that are just visually captivating. From all the playtesting that we've done with Lost Roots so far, we have gotten a lot of feedback, positive feedback on the visuals, which I'm super happy about. And I think it's really important visually to reflect the themes that we're working with, and have the world kind of match the narrative that we're trying to tell. So I worked super closely with Owen while we were writing this to kind of match the overall themes and atmosphere that we were trying to achieve. We're also trying to create meaningful experiences, so that way when people step away from our games, they feel like they're walking away with something that kind of sits with them for a while. Maybe that's questioning the things that were in the game, like in their own lives, questioning some of the themes and the questions, some of the ideas that were brought up in the game, and thinking about how that could be reflected in their own life. And lastly, we really want to provide just gratifying gameplay. So I'm a huge fan of puzzle games and resource management, and both of those things end up in all the projects I've worked on, coincidentally. So we really want people to feel like they're progressing and making every puzzle that they accomplish a rewarding experience. And we do that through level design, we do that through just the gameplay, and you'll see in a second too how we've implemented that for Lost Roots. So here we go. So Lost Roots is an immersive 2.5D exploration game where players unite spirits by growing an underground network of roots. With a finite amount of roots to grow, players must unlock memories of the deceased and navigate through the cemetery in order to advance. So in this game, you are playing as a root, you're growing underground, and you're connecting to all of these spirits in a cemetery that you are now a part of. And so in this world, you are playing as part of nature. You're exploring the underground world and connecting to spirits that have passed on before you, and they're giving you a little bit of advice and their perspective on life and death to kind of guide you through the cemetery. Along the way, you're also navigating obstacles, you're collecting energy shards, and the whole core game loop is to kind of keep you pushing forward. Towards the end of the game, you are actually tasked with deciding whether you want to stay in the cemetery or leave the cemetery into the unknown. And so that kind of gives players some agency on deciding how they want their game to continue. So talking a little bit about the game as a whole, some of the key features that make our game unique. Number one is the dynamic route exploration. So here's a little clip. So as players are exploring the map, they're able to collect energy shards that allow their route to continue forward. So if you miss the energy shards, your route will actually wither up and die. And so that's to kind of give a little bit more of a puzzle element to it. It's important to collect those resources, and it allows players to continue moving forward. Another key element of our game is unlocking the memories. So every time a player connects to a root system, they will awaken a new spirit and get to hear from them and get some insight on their perspective, their experience. And this is to just help players get immersed and want to continue meeting new people as well. Here's a clip of that. And our last key point is that strategic decision making. So while you're working through these puzzles, you are actively making a decision of where to navigate and where to collect memory shards, how to connect to the next mushroom, etc. At the beginning of the game, we actually allow players to see where the next goal is so that you're able to plan ahead and figure out how you're going to navigate to that next checkpoint. But in later levels, you're actually not able to see the next goal. So you kind of have to go blindly into it and figure it out in real time as you're working forward. So just another clip of that. So goals for Lost Roots as a game, we really see this build as a vertical slice. We kind of see this as the tutorial phase of our game, and we really want to expand the game's map significantly. But I think this is a really great opportunity for people to kind of get a taste for the overall theme and atmosphere of the game that we're trying to accomplish. So in terms of map expansion, we are planning to have the player move downward into the earth, so deeper into the earth. And having that verticality will open up a variety of expansion opportunities. So we would be able to create more level designs, and it would allow the player to traverse the map in all directions. So instead of just moving from left to right, we're moving up, down, left, right. It is still 2.5D, but they would be able to have way more complicated navigation puzzles, and I think that would be really interesting for gameplay. For narrative updates, as we're traveling down into the earth, we imagined having layers of history that were once, above ground, that have been lost to history and buried in the earth. So you would be able to pass down through different layers of human history, and potentially even leading more into fantasy. We could create a whole new lore of like the beginning of humanity. So I think that's really exciting. And then we could also create a lot of new challenges. So again, like I said before, with new level designs, we'd be able to create new obstacles, new power-ups, and puzzles. And so we've been talking about different ways that we could give the players power-ups that are interesting, and it would all change the way that they navigate through this map. So that is Lost Roots, and as a studio, I wanted to talk a little bit about future projects. So one of the first projects we created as a studio is a board game called Solomon's Seal. And so that's something that we want to come back to now that we're kind of in a good place with Lost Roots for now. So in the future, we hope to come back to this and kind of work through it. We've done paper play tests with it before, and we've gotten really, really great positive feedback from people. Again, it kind of fits into the overall goals of Orbital Games well. It still focuses on some like really deep emotions about humanity, and it also brings in a lot of nature elements as well. A lot of this has to do with alchemy and potion crafting, and it's a really awesome cooperative story board game. So yeah, thank you so much again. I wish I could have been there in person. I would have loved to take some Q&A, but I wanted to include my email in case any of you were interested in talking with me about Orbital Games or Lost Roots, or have any questions for me. I'd love to connect. So there's my email. Thank you so much again for your time, and I hope to see you all again.
All right, thank you. So Graziella, if you're watching on the streams, thank you for that presentation. And if you have any comments, feedback, questions about that game or about Orbital Games, feel free to reach out to her on her email. And we have Lost Roots and all of the other games here for you to play after the presentations as well. So we're going to move right on to our second presenter, which is Susurret Press. Come on up.
Thank you. My name is Odin, and I am the founder of Susurret Press. It is currently an indie, also solo indie studio, making tabletop board games and other sort of tangible artifacts that can be turned into games. I also want to start by saying when I started in Level Upstate, I was working on a different game, and then I got pretty sick and kind of lost steam on that project, but this project was born out of it, so I'm excited to talk to you all about it today. Susurret Press, it's me, Odin. I am an author, an artist, and an educator. I offer private classes as well as some public things at local organizations. I run D&D at Bard & Baker occasionally. I run private sessions for home groups. And I also teach bookbinding. I am primarily and have been primarily a bookbinder for the last 4 years, and am currently getting ready to head back to RPI, which I'll talk about more in a second. But yes, I started Susurret Press in 2020 and have been working on it since then. I publish small zines every month, but that is coming to a stop now because I'm going back to school. But yeah, I published small single 8-page zines every month for the past couple years. I've written one book that I published last year in March that is called Finding Fernbough, and I have developed a bunch of like modules and system neutral settings for a variety of tabletop games over the past couple years. So yes, I'm going to be heading back up to RPI for my PhD in critical game design. I'm looking forward to continuing work on this project, Centurion, as well as a couple other projects that I'll talk about in a second. But yeah, I mainly do writing. I'm a writer first, and I'm really excited to be developing a lot of different things. Star Breach is a system neutral setting. I currently have about 45,000 words developed of this fake world that you can set your D&D campaign in, and basically it has the full sort of write-up of the geography of the city, the political aspects of the city, the factions, things like that, all the way down to like culture and food and things like that. And Nothing Worth Dying For is another game that I've been working on for the past 6 months or so. I currently have about 50,000 words written of the story of that, and that is an Appalachian horror about a summer camp and sort of the history of coal mining in Appalachia and what it has done to the community and the land there. But Centurion is the game that I'm here to talk about most today. It is a solo journaling game about being a truck driver, specifically for the company Centurion, which offers a lot of specifically health benefits to its employees. And the way that I am looking forward to sort of exemplifying that is in an ARG, which I will be talking more about later, that is basically going to be a version of the game played by a character that exposes sort of the history and the background of Centurion, the company. And this game is played by building routes that you are taking your truckloads on and encountering things along the way. This is happening in a sort of an alternative North America where there is a variety of supernatural things that you might encounter, as well as just a variety of like normal, out of the ordinary things that could happen, but you don't necessarily expect. It's born out of dealing with chronic health issues and thinking about driving as sort of one of the things that is hardest for me to do as an individual, both physically and mentally. It is like a place where I struggle to be. You have to be with yourself when you're in a car. And being in a car for a very long period of time is an incredibly hard thing to do sometimes. And so thinking about that and forcing the player to be present with themselves while theoretically going on this very long, monotonous journey is something that I'm really interested in exploring. So the core gameplay comes in two facets, in that there is a job route that you will get at the start of play, and your truck log, which documents how you are doing every day. One of the components of this game is included in general regulations for truck drivers, and that the rules of how long you are allowed to drive at any given time will be listed out. And so you document how you are moving through your days with the sheet on the right, and the job board is on the left here, or on your left here. And I'm also working on developing a web app that will generate the job sheets so that people will be able to generate their own sheets, both in the book using lists and tables that I've developed, as well as using the web app, which just would make it a little bit easier to get a final product like this. Oops. Sorry, went too fast. Okay. So some of the unique selling points of this specific project is that that I'm looking forward to integrating text play, where you can sign up to receive basically other transmissions from other truck drivers. Eventually, I would really like to incorporate a community aspect that I was sort of working on for my last game, that would allow others to insert and like submit their own CB radio transmissions, so that it would be a little bit more versatile than just what I am coming up with. But basically, you would just receive a text when you are on a route, and it would be with relation to where you are on your route, and would give you things to write about in your daily write-up and things like that. Also might inspire a new offshoot of storytelling that you are going to explore as you head on your journey. So the two sort of main ways that I'm looking to market this is primarily the ARG, which is something that I've been thinking about for a long time. I think that I keep on trying to make games when really I want to be making something more immersive, something with a lot of information and history around it that people can dive into and sort of make up their own conclusions from. All of the primary material for this game will be made as though it was made by Centurion, and so it has one very distinct perspective that it is all coming from. It is coming from a positive perspective, supportive of this company, working in that way. But the ARG is really going to influence and introduce a bunch of other perspectives from other people who are working at the company, or just from you being able to explore it more deeply as an individual. Yeah, and the ARG is going to be basically written by filling out and doing all of these routes that I've developed, and then reading through the journal entries of another driver in this game, basically. I also have a pretty established social media that I'm continuing to build, and look forward to engaging with people on there. Though the exact integration of ARG versus social media, I'm not totally unsure of what it's going to look like yet, because I want to have the ARG be something a little bit individualized from my own business. I want it to be, initially at least, more mysterious. I don't want it necessarily linked immediately to me, but when the game actually comes out, it will be it'll be a whole look at the game as a whole, rather. And then I'm also considering doing some crowdfunding. I did some networking with an individual from Kickstarter at the end of last year, who was really excited about a lot of the stuff that I've been working on, and so I'm looking forward to continuing to engage with that kind of community for this project. So the primary audience for this game is going to be solo TTRPG enthusiasts, but also people who just are enjoying and excited about telling stories. This is a very self-motivated game because you are given prompts, but you still have to sort of do all of the storytelling work yourself. It is a game that is quiet and introspective. I think it gives you a lot of time to think about yourself and where you are in the world. And it's also a game with a very low barrier of entry. There are not a lot of rules for this game. It's mostly following step-by-step instructions with a grid that is well explained. Basically, all of the sheets tell you exactly what to do, where to do it, and the actual rule management will be very explicit in the game, and there just aren't that many rules to deal with, so it makes it a little bit easier to approach. And also, my first introduction to solo TTRPGs was when I was just writing fiction and wanted something to inspire me, and so I am definitely trying to honor those roots of connection and gameplay in this game. So I'm currently expecting this game to come out in the first quarter of next year. I am currently working with someone who I'm hoping to make my art director so that it won't be just a solo dev anymore. And basically, we're looking to make a rule book that is standalone, that will have everything you need to play the game in it, including level generation after you've used the initial job requests that have been provided to you. And also trying to build in a model for something like the text by mail, or play by text, that allows people to do it affordably, and also me to do it affordably. So that's something that I am figuring out a little bit more detail on right now. But yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Oh,
Q&A, yeah.
yeah. So we have some time for any questions. I know this is like both like a very different turn from talking about video games, and then also from the project that you initially started on in Level Upstate.
Big shift.
This is really, really interesting. So yeah.
Yeah.
So any questions?
Does anybody have questions?
Yeah, so this journey is really interesting. You mentioned something that I found fascinating early on was sort of this interest in tangible things, just sort of like tangible artifacts. But this sort of evolved into a medium, much like a video game. So how's that trajectory been for you, and where do you see it going?
Could you just ask your question again?
Yeah. So the trajectory from like tabletop gaming versus a video, something that's solely a digital artifact, into like physical artifacts, tangible things, sort of evolved, it seems, into this game. But it seems like the trajectory could keep going. So this is almost like this game seems to me is like a way to, like, if I want to prompt myself to write on a regular basis, or I need to do journaling, it's a way to sort of escape into this fantasy momentarily to achieve that goal. But I'm just sort of like, I'm projecting my thought of the trajectory on you. I'd like to hear it from you.
Yeah, so I think that this game has a lot of mobility for both individual artifact creation by the player and by me as the creator. One of the things that I've been working on for the ARG, which I think will be really interesting in the way that it influences gameplay, will be like a Wikipedia of the company that I am working on, and different tools to develop your own journal system when you are working on your game, because I am very interested in artifact creation. And so we have this sort of base of the book that the game is written in, but then there is a separate artifact of the journal. And I think that having these two sort of components where you are mandated in a way to create something physical yourself, and having the play sheets be physical is a big step in that direction, I think. But yeah, I think that just having a game where I think that maybe I'm not addressing your question directly. What might be more direct in what you're asking is looking at the way that you as a player and your character evolves over time through like this monotony and this job, and also in exploring sort of the history that is provided to you by the company and by the external experience. So I think that it has a lot of room to grow into something a lot more comprehensive and a lot more internal than it necessarily is at the baseline. Is that sort of what you were looking for? Yeah. Yeah, I think that the game could exist without them, but I think that I think that they are really important in feeling less alone as a player, whether they're coming from me or someone else. I think that the idea of having someone who is not so far away from you in the gameplay of a solo game is really interesting and important and influential on the way that you will be writing your character. Because if you are driving on this road alone for 12 hours a day, and you hear nothing from anyone else. I think that your writing experience is going to be a lot different than if you are getting transmissions. And I am including transmissions in the book, so if you are not playing by text, you still have the option to receive them. There will just be spots on your map that notes when you might receive something. So I have a couple solo RPGs at my table that I can show people when they come over, but basically it is giving you the option to include a prompt at different points in your journey, whether or not you are including the digital side of things. Yeah. Yeah, so the sort of multiplayer component is something that came from the original game that I was working on. I haven't really seen it in solo games in particular. There are a couple games that I've seen. There's a game called Tether where it's 2 players sort of playing an individual game, sending things back and forth. But I haven't really seen anything on a wider scale or like to this level, and that may be my own ignorance, but I don't think that I don't think that I've seen too much. So it's mostly just been personal exploring and like my interest in community building. Yeah. Thank you.
Hello. My question is, how does regionality impact gameplay? Do you have different modes where, like, are players generally in the same location that they are living in, or are they like moving from different places, and does that impact their gameplay experience?
Yeah, so the game is based on long haul trucking, and so you will be moving pretty dramatically across the country, across North America, and I am sort of playing with that by developing a really big list of real and fake locations across the whole country where people can stop on their way. And that will be pulled in through the generator that I'm building, the app. But basically there will be sort of start and end points on your job listing, and then more information about the city that you're in. So when you quit for the day, you know where you are and you know where what you are experiencing basically.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. So this is a fascinating game. This, the alternate reality gaming genre of that point where that line between the magical circle of the game and our real life starts to blur. Or am I really a long haul trucker, or am I a trucker in this game, or both perhaps? Okay, so let's move on to our next studio, Studio Inc. Complete. Studio Incomplete. Who are going to tell you about their game, Night of the Delivering Dead. You have some more mics right there.
Hello, so we are the team from Studio Incomplete, just minus one member, but we'll introduce him as well. We're a game studio that founded as a part of Level Upstate, and our game is Night of the Delivering Dead. So, my name is Emmett. I am one of the designers and programmers for the game. I worked alongside Brendan Rufo, who unfortunately was not able to join us today. He had a very late night last night and unfortunately missed his train. But he is kind of the mastermind of this game. It's a game that he's been kind of developing for the past 2 to 2.5 years. solo, and then he kind of brought us as a team on to work on it further. But like I said, I'm Emmett. I worked on the programming for the game and a lot of the game design itself.
My name is Ivy. I am the lead narrative designer in this game and the only writer, but that's my role. I'm the one in the top right there.
Hi, I'm Mira. I'm mainly a programmer for this game, but I've been working in many other places of the game in different small parts.
Hi, I'm Ari. I was the 3D artist for our game, so any of the assets that you see like on the map and the environment, those were me.
I'm Ghost. I do a lot of the 2D art, anything UI related or strictly related to the pixel art of the game I've done.
And we are all 2023 grads of RPI. We all met, I think, all in our freshman year of RPI and kind of stuck together. And as we were all graduating, decided to come together again for Level Upstate. And we want to make neat games with engaging design and really compelling stories, games that we would really like to play. And our game is Night of the Delivering Dead.
So this game is about a necromancer and their summons. A lot of the gameplay is based around using your summons to deliver food to various people throughout your neighborhood. A lot of the stuff on screen right now is related to the card design and the 2D cutscenes that we'll be playing in the game.
So, with these summons that you are going to be using, you will be trying to save Suburbia from the doom of inconvenience. So you'll be using your summons to navigate the map, and we have some screenshots up here that kind of display what our current map kind of looks like. You'll be using yourself and your summons to go around the map, explore Suburbia, and try to deliver food as efficiently as possible, and we'll get more into specifics of gameplay on a later slide.
So for our story, you follow our main character as they meet people around town, build up their resume, and eventually land a job with a necromancy company. However, when things go bad, you have to help them get back on their feet and find a way to help get out of their student loan debt.
So our game, like we said before, is about a person delivering food for a meal delivery company, a la DoorDash, Uber Eats, something like that, but using, obviously, the skills they learned in school, which happened to be necromancy, to do so. The actual gameplay of the game is very similar to a lot of games kind of combined. Our team leader, Brendan, is a huge fan of game systems and how they interact with each other. So this is a very system-heavy game with roguelike aspects, world exploration aspects, puzzles, and deck building. Really the whole 9 yards in terms of that. So you'll see in our demo, what we have implemented is kind of the core gameplay of Night of the Delivering Dead, where you are in the map exploring using cards as your spells to command your summons to explore and figure out where you need to deliver the food to, and then actually get it there. So it is part skill-based, coming up with a strategy, part luck-based with, obviously, the luck of the draw. As you build a deck and use that deck, and whatever cards you do happen to draw each turn to execute upon the plan that you do make.
So we made this game for people in our similar situations where we just graduated college and it has been pretty difficult to find jobs in our field. So our demographic is around our age. So it's kind of like a Fire Emblem meets Pikmin kind of game where you have a lot of horde management, but you're also doing a lot of strategy work, moving across the map and seeing which routes you can take to which houses and deliver all of these things efficiently. Our themes are a lot about like bringing the community together and how even with all of these struggles, you can still find similar people in your situations and build your own community. So this is fine. Like, this is a game, but where's all the spice? Where's my mini games, you might think? How can I make this difficult?
And this kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier with kind of the mad scientist approach to game design that our team leader had. So the game that we have demoed today is, like I said, the core gameplay of Night of the Delivering Dead. So this kind of goes into our goals for the future, because we have a lot planned, but unfortunately due to scheduling and us all having to find real jobs, as well as working on this project, we haven't gotten as far as we would have liked. So we aren't able to show any of these aspects, but kind of the outside game to this game. Whereas when you're done delivering food, what do? You talk with your friends, you network with people, you build a community. Maybe you spend time upgrading your summons, researching how to make a better zombie, or learn how to, from your druid friend, how to summon treants. So these are all kind of games within but outside of the core gameplay loop. Aspects like relationships with others in the community and how those can improve your life inside the game. And so this is kind of, you'll see in our demo, the preliminary aspects of this are all kind of centered around your necromantic phone, which is called an iPhone. Different spelling, though. And like I said, it allows you to keep up to date with your bills, your contracts, and research and get in touch with different people who may be able to help you out with your goals.
So, you might be asking, when can I play this game? Well, right here, you can play the demo that we have on our laptops. In the future, until release, you can look at our devlogs, which you can sign up for to get subscriptions and see semi-monthly. But I know, when can we play the game, right? It will be out in October of some year in the future, for sure.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
So can you just expand a little bit on the who is this for? Who do you guys have in mind when you're designing a game like this? So I'm new to video games, just for preface. So just like walk me through your thought process a little bit as you're designing a game like this, because it's very unique.
Sure. So when Brendan, our team leader, was coming up with the idea for this game, it was definitely rooted a lot in the kind of game that he would like to play. Like a very complex game, but still based in things that are familiar. Some of the core gameplay is quite inspired by the roguelike deck building genre that kind of came to prevalence in the past 5 or so years with games like Slay the Spire and Wild Frost. Games where you're playing a card game, but you're not necessarily playing against an opponent. You're more playing against the world, a PvE card game, if you will. And so when we were coming up with this game, we really wanted to make, really, like I said at the beginning, a game that we would all like to play. Like, we pull a lot of different aspects from game genres that we're all really passionate about. And that's kind of where we get to that contemporary demographic that we're looking towards. People who like to play the games that we do and stuff like that.
Yeah, so we're also looking at people within the age group of like 18 to about 26, people who have recently graduated from college or high school who are looking for jobs in a market that is not very friendly and welcoming. We're in a market where finding a job out of college is very difficult, and we wanted to reflect that in our game, and we're trying to bring out the emotional resonance of that experience into our gameplay and target people who are going through that experience.
That was a good description. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Oh, it's stream true. Thank you. You mentioned narrative, you mentioned sort of roguelites, and I guess presumably they're sort of level-based gameplay. I'm not quite sure, but I was sort of curious as to how you plan or how you envision the narrative intertwining with sort of restarting, as well as since you have this branching narrative, I was curious if you had thoughts about if you were worried about like convincing people to play the entire thing again if they're already replaying individual levels, or if perhaps if the roguelite restart happens around the entire game. I was curious how you were sort of wondering about directing people down different branches.
So part of the way that we're imagining the roguelike elements is having it be so that on a certain day you go out on a run, and that run is just you going on deliveries for the night or for a certain period of time. It might end up being more than one day. We're still figuring that. We're still figuring out exactly how to implement it. But the idea is going to be that there is going to be a calendar. You will have a certain amount of time to accrue a certain amount of money to make sure that you can pay rent, food bills, and student loan debts. The roguelike elements come in with every time that you go on a run, the map changes. You get a new map, you get a completely different set of deliveries to do, and you get to explore a new area.
Cool, so the decisions for when you like split in the narrative, whatever has happened in between days, perhaps? Is that what the idea is?
Yeah, probably going to be more on like a monthly basis. Give the player a little more time to actually accrue that money and figure out what they need to do with things like the social links and the relationships around town.
Very cool. Thank you.
Hey, I wanted to ask, what will be the main source of challenge in this game? I'm thinking that there might be rival necromancers who are trying to steal your food, or there's a neighborhood watch program that hates necromancers, or something like that. What would be the obstacles the player would have to deal with?
So there's kind of an easy way to break it down is like micro obstacles and macro obstacles. Micro being the things that are actually blocking the player from reaching their goals within what we're calling a run, where a run being you start the evening trying to deliver as many orders as possible to make as much money, because that's kind of the core of the game, is to survive while you're in this kind of job searching part of your life with bills to pay. So that's things like you said, like neighborhood watch is something we've talked about, even like a police cruiser going down the street, and you kind of have to hide because it's hard to explain a zombie shambling down the street with a bag of food in its hand. So those are things that would actually block you in the game. Those macro obstacles are kind of like what I said earlier, the rent. You can't really lose this game or lose a run. You just had an unproductive day. Maybe you didn't get as many deliveries as you'd like to. So it's not that the game is over and you lose. Tomorrow is another day. Tomorrow you can deliver more food, and maybe things will be different. Maybe you find a connection who tells you about a better method of doing this thing, and then that upgrade makes things easier the next time you go out to deliver.
So additionally, there's also going to be things like you mentioned, the micro challenges, but there's also going to be things like there are going to be rival necromancers. That's going to be something that comes later in the game, and that will be explained more in the story of the game. That is still in development, and also we want to keep it a little quiet for spoiler reasons so that we can actually have this be unspoiled on release. But yes, there are going to be things like rival necromancers, people taking your orders, and having obstacles in your way as you go through the exploration process.
All right, hey, thanks.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
I love that the lose condition for this is to have an unproductive day. You know, like mostly in games, we have these very dramatic ways of losing, like you die, your empire dies. It's, you know, it's very operatic and effort and epic. But it's like in the end of this game, like that's a fate worse than death, an unproductive day. It makes me shiver to think about it. All right, so we'll be looking forward for that in October of some year. That's the perfect release date. Okay, thank you. So our last presenter this evening, our last studio is Urisoft. Come on up.
Hello, my name is Tess, and I'd like to introduce Urisoft and the game that we are working on called the Songbird Guild. So now the Songbird Guild is... Okay, oh, no, sorry. Okay. Well, it is a Yuri workplace romance in which you work as a magical girl exploring a dangerous forest. But in this world, being a magical girl isn't a secret like it normally is. Instead, it's just a regular day job. So, our core sort of gameplay loop going through this is essentially that you start out getting a contract from somebody that your guild, which is essentially your company, is supposed to do something that they need somebody magical for. Every day you can go to the train station and choose where you want to go. You can go to the place where your contract is, and then that sort of kicks off that part of the story, but you can also go back to other places you visited, try to find more secrets that you didn't find your first time through. And yeah, when you find those secrets, those unlock things like little side stories of the characters in the guild, just sort of hanging out at home, doing fun things. You know, at the beginning of the day when you get your contract, you can do that too. But it's going to wait for you to essentially go out to accomplish this contract to then, give you the next part of the story. So our target audience is the intersection between the LGBT community and the gaming community, which is actually quite large. A lot of, the LGBT community likes this type of, especially like very story-heavy, nerdy stuff, and we really like our magical girls quite a bit. Ever since Sailor Moon, back in the '90s, there's been a lot of queerness and magical girls have been together for quite a while at this point. So we're hoping that this kind of, adds sort of a new direction, sort of adds some uniqueness to that genre that has, traditionally just been, sort of a space for, people like us to express ourselves. We've already gotten a little bit of press coverage. Erica Friedman wrote about us a little bit on her blog, which forever remains like probably one of the highlights of my time doing this. But we also have like a couple of VTubers who are going to be streaming the demo that we have coming up. We're going to be at some events like FlameCon and doing some festivals like, Wholesome Games also in August. The Turn-Based Thursday Fest that we're doing is in September, but they haven't updated their banner yet, so that's what's on their website right now. But yeah, so as a studio, right now we're really focused on the games side of things, but we're really looking to expand into selling merchandise of the characters and creatures related to our game, and maybe even sort of expanding into, sort of contract services for other companies as well, potentially. We all freelance, in one way or another in order to sort of make a living on top of Yurisoft. There are some of us that have talked about it. Would it be nice if that sort of got, could come together under the Yurisoft banner essentially, so we could work together to do that. But that's probably a long ways off into the future. We are applying to a couple of publishers right now, and one of them does specialize in making merchandise like that. So yeah, hopefully they will be able to help with things like that. Right now, so far it's taken us about a month and a half to develop each of these episodes. There's 6 episodes, so we're probably planning on finishing up at around early December, and then releasing in maybe April. The hard part is originally we were going to release in late February, and then Steam said, hey, what if late February we had Steam Next Fest, and then the day Steam Next Fest ended, VN Fest happened, and then the day that VN Fest happened, the spring sale happened, and the spring sale didn't end until April. So that kind of threw a wrench into that. So we were kind of like, well, we're already really nervous about the release date coming up. We really don't want to make it 1 month or less. But then at the same time, so we were kind of talking about maybe if we could be in Next Fest, or if we could be, have a demo in, the VN Fest. But that's stuff that we still sort of need to talk about. But those things could help us generate hype if we do end up releasing in April. But it's still a very, very tentative date. A lot of question mark next to it right now. So there's 8 of us. Between us, we cover 3 different countries, the US, Uruguay, and Germany. And we cover, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different time zones, some of which don't do daylight savings time, and some of which do, but at different times of the year. So that's all, that's been a thing to deal with. But yeah, for me, the most impressive job that I had was working at RPI. The rest of these guys on the team just absolutely blow my mind, not just with how good of a job they do, but also when they mention when I was working at Marvel, one of the pieces of advice, my boss gave me, just to be like, oh, wait, hold on, go back to that part about working at Marvel. So yeah, between the 7 of them, they cover, Disney, Pixar, Marvel, the team behind Hell of a Boss and Has Been Hotel. There's definitely more, but I ran out of room on the slides. So they're a really incredible group. You should go check out their work, not only at Yurisoft, but also other places as well, some of the freelance stuff that they've worked on. Yeah, and just as a last note to end on, we are releasing a demo of the first episode of the game on August 15th. It will be on Steam and itch. So yeah, if you're interested, if this presentation interests you, or if you go and you play the game demo after these presentations are over, if that interests you, feel free to wishlist it on Steam or itch, and you'll be notified when the demo comes out. How many people think that they're going to download it? A few, yeah. Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Definitely, if you like it, leave a comment for the people who work on this to know that you really appreciate. Well, yeah. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, that's it for me. Thank you. Thank you. Any questions?
Kind of like a little bit unrelated to game, but what kind of game dev services is Urisoft looking to like expand into eventually?
So I would most likely be involved. So that would be things like writing and editing. I don't know if I'm quite at the point where I could offer like programming services unless they specifically wanted like RenPy programming. But then other than that, I don't know if it would depend on who wants to sort of be involved with that. But maybe some art. That would probably be where it ended up going, at least to start, would be like writing, editing, and then maybe like some artwork stuff. But that would completely depend on whether or not any of the artists want to, be part of that as another stream of revenue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. I noticed that you obviously have split the story and narrative into multiple episodes.
Yes.
Obviously, the demo here contains the full first episode. I was curious as to your release date, right? If you had, what your thoughts were as to splitting the release date up into releasing episodes at different points versus doing them all at once. I was curious as to just, I have not experienced splitting a game up into parts like this. So I'm curious as to your thoughts behind how it affects the release of the game.
Yeah, I've never been involved in a game that was episodic like that, where like, the episode's released, once a month or something. That might be, if we do end up finding a publisher, that might be, a conversation to have with them. But I think for now, we were sort of thinking, the episodes are meant to be played in probably like a 45-minute session, so we wouldn't want them to be too short either. So it all sort of depends on what, if our audience starts responding to that a bit more, or if the publisher is like, oh well, people love these tiny little things, we might consider it. But I think I think that's a good thing to keep in mind. But I think I would need to talk to like a lot of people about it first, especially just because I've never been through the cycle for how that works before.
Yeah, totally. Thank you. Next, another question, because I have the mic in my hand. You mentioned looking into releasing merch, and obviously I already have a sticker from you guys from a booth that I visited, which was fantastic. It seemed like the merch was sort of qualified on working with that publisher. Have you looked into doing like self-fulfilling merch through other third-party distributors, or is that not really the goal of Urisoft?
So right now, we've been getting the things like stickers and keychains through a third-party group. We've been using a group called Vogue Race, which is really nice. If anybody out there is looking to make some stickers. And we could certainly keep going through them. I think part of it is also maybe not necessarily having the publisher, build the thing, because I think honestly the publisher makes their merchandise through their own like third-party thing that they have a contract with. But it would also just be like, what merchandise to make, maybe. And I don't know, again, this would be like a conversation to have with them, but like, maybe housing merchandise, like, when you buy it beforehand, and like, I'd probably just be storing it around my house, until somebody buys it. Also just, things like how much of that stuff do you buy ahead of time? Like, you don't need to worry about that on Steam, because somebody just pays you to download it. But suddenly now you have to ask yourself, how many keychains do we think, we want to have available before we run out of stock? And those are questions that's just so far outside of the industry that I've been working with. I think also even just sort of guidance through that process as well, I think will help, just from somebody who's been selling this stuff as supplemental income for their company for quite a while.
For sure. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Less fun questions than been asked so far, but can you talk a little bit about your distribution and marketing? So I see you're on Steam and Itch. That sounds
Yes.
pretty exciting. Can you just talk a little bit about the marketing and distribution efforts you guys are taking on?
Yeah, so right now, our most popular way of getting the word out has been YouTube Shorts and TikTok. We just make these little videos that our social media manager down in Uruguay narrates. They're funny, sometimes they're little tidbits about the lore, things like that. That seems to be where we've gotten a lot of following. We've also been trying to go around to events, stuff like there's an event called FlameCon for queer nerd culture down in New York City in August. And we'll be going to that. When we went to that last time, we got a lot of wish lists on that weekend alone. So we're hoping that that helps us a lot. And then it's just sort of like we're starting to look into getting, now that there's a demo coming out, we're looking into getting streamers to play the demo. I don't know, how big or little of an impact that will have, but that's something that we're sort of trying to do. Even just getting a publisher, that helps get the word out because they have an audience. You're not trying to, they don't have to build an audience for you. They're giving you to their audience. So that's nice. There, if we do get in with one of the publishers we're applying for, we do have an Instagram and a Tumblr. But I'd say there's definitely like the really dedicated people follow there, but those haven't been as much like grabbing people as much as they've been sort of the place people fall into when like the funnel from other places brings them in. Yeah, that's kind of like a quick and dirty overview.
So it sounds like it's a lot of grassroots and organic, but you kind of have plans for maybe something a little bit more viral with streamers and publishers and stuff like that.
Yeah, hopefully. Especially now that we've got the demo. That gives those people something to sort of sink their teeth into, sort of help also get the word out.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tess. All right, well, thank you, everybody. Another big round of applause for all of the presenters. We're really excited to see what you all do next. I want to say a quick word to say thank you to all the folks who made this program possible and this event possible. So in the Level Upstate program, the teams have been working over the course of the year with our great mentoring team. We have two of them over here, Eric Amaris and Darian Shump. Morris Suckling is our third one, and he wasn't able to be here tonight, but I know they've done quite a lot with all of the groups over these months. This program is supported by Empire State Development, by NISTARS, Center of Excellence, and Centers of Advanced Technology, which supports technology and innovation all across New York State. And in our role as a Center of Excellence in Digital Game Development, we work to advance the game development community here in the Capital Region and across New York. And it really can't be done without this community. This is an amazing place. There's an amazing and tight-knit community of studios and of organizations. There's folks like Tech Valley Game Space. There's events like One Upstate that come here that bring all of these folks together. And it's just wonderful to be part of it and see what's coming up next. Also want to give a shout out to Agora Media. Thank you so much for the AV, for the streaming support. You all are fantastic. And say thank you to Amanda Kirk over here as well, who had an enormous amount to do with designing this program and giving it a name and bringing it into being back in the day. And it's great to see you back here again, too. Thank you. All right, so with that, we're going to wrap it up. Stick around, have something to eat, have something to drink, play some video games, chat, network, and have a great evening. Thank you so much.